Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Hydra, and this is Rust Console Edition. Are you ready for what I have in store for you today? Well, if so, then like, subscribe, and follow me. Okay, and here we are in the next episode of Professional Power Copy and Paste. This episode is all about Hydra's hydroponics. So this is an automated sprinkler system. It's going to allow you to keep all of your planter boxes at the optimal water level. As you can see here, we only have 86% water, but we have 4,000 water in our thing. But if we look over here, same thing. However, if we go over here and we look at this one, we also have 35, 38, so we have 78. But this one has 100% water because this one has 5,700. So the optimal range for your plants, I have found, is to be between 4,500 and 7,000 milliliters. So we have about a 2,500 milliliter range that we can play with. So essentially what this system is going to do is it's going to add 2,500 extra water into this planter system. So it's going to get up to 7,000 milliliters. And then it's going to remove that 2,500 milliliters. So it's going to drop down to 4,500. And then it's going to turn back on and go back up to 7, down to 4, 7, 4, 7, 4. So then that way your plants are always in the most optimal range when it comes to water. I've also gone and set up 3 heaters here. 1 isn't enough, 2 isn't enough. I found 3 to be just right. Even in the cold biome, it might not be perfect. You might need 4 in the cold biome. But at all areas, even if you're in this wood biome or if you're in the desert, it still gets cold at night, so you still will need heaters in order to keep your plants cool. Each 4-block setup is going to require 2 sprinklers and 1 light. So as you can see, I have the same setup copied over here. Now, you don't have to have your setup like this. This is a pretty good setup. If you were to add a wall here and a couple garage doors, it would be a 12 rocket raid in order for them to fully destroy your farm here. And as long as you keep all of the good stuff in your base, then they can destroy this, and it'd be super cheap and easy to rebuild if you had to. So the other version you can also do is you can do a tall version of this. So you can do a 2x2, have your main floor down here be all of your utilities, and then 2 floors of farms. So that would be the smaller way to set up, and probably best for most of like your compounds. You can have this as a compound farm. But anyway, you don't necessarily have to follow this setup, but the power and all of the other stuff is what's important, the important parts of this system. So yeah, let's go over how it works. So what we're doing is we're having these 2 pumps right here. These 2 pumps are sucking up our salt water. It's best if you do it on a river because you don't need a whole bunch of components. So you literally just go from the pumps to the sprinklers. It's kind of nice. But if you're building on a river, people are going to know what you're doing inside. And you're very limited on where you can actually be on the map. As you can see, there's only 2 rivers on this whole map. So you're kind of stuck to where you can build your base. But if you build this design, you can literally build it on any ocean. And it just works. So we got our salt water coming in right here, going through our orange hoses, and then it's going into our water purifier. From our water purifier, it's going into our fluid combiner, and then into our barrel. So the orange line is water going into the barrel. And our barrel is going to hold all of our clean water. This barrel does fill up over time, by the way, so you will be gaining more water than you're using. So from that water barrel, it's going up here into this fluid splitter, and it's being split out 3 ways. So one of the reasons why we're using this fluid splitter here instead of just hooking them all up after each other and daisy chaining them is because this water barrel and all of these things put out their maximum amount of water that they can if they have the ability to do so. So you're always going to output the maximum amount of water out of there, even though we're not using all of that water. And again, that's why a lot of this has been very confusing. There is no electrical branch to determine exactly how much water you want to send out. So I'm using this splitter as that. So what we're doing is we're sending three water out this pump, three water out this pump, and then we're sending another three water back into our water barrel. So our water barrel is always filling at a rate of 15, and it's always draining at a rate of 12. So we're always gaining excess water by putting our excess water back into the barrel that we're not using. Now these sprinklers should take 2 water. Um, but for some reason the last sprinkler on a chain, and this also works with ceiling lights too, requires one less than than all of the other ones. So even though this should require 4 water, it actually only requires 3 water. Say with my lights, I have 4 lights here. It should be 8 power, but really it's only 7 power for the lights because the last one only needs 1. So don't ask me why, but after all of my testing, that's how it works. So I have 3 water going here, I have 3 water going there, and then I have 3 water going back into my barrel. So it all works out perfectly. Um, so that's basically how the water system is working. From the pumps to the purifier to the barrel, and then to the small pumps, the fluid switches, and then excess water is being drained back into the barrel. Now, when it comes to the automated sprinkler system, so we have an on timer and we have an off timer. Our off timer is set to the amount of time that it takes to drain 2,500 milliliters from here. And then our on timer is set to how long it takes to add an excess of 2,500 milliliters. So the on timer is always going to be on longer than the off timer because the on timer has to not only fill an extra 2,500 milliliters, but it also has to fill the milliliters that the plants are taking at the same time. So the on timer is always going to be on longer than the off timer. Now, when it comes to the plants, the optimal way this setup works is for your optimal clone. So if you had your favorite clone, you're already good, you've cloned it 20 times, that's where this works the best. Because if you can see here our water intake, this plant right here takes 7 milliliters per 60 seconds, and then this one here takes 6. So if you're planting both 6 and 7, then it's going to be a different amount of time than if it was all 6 or all 7s. So, and then all of your clones, as you can see here, all of your clones will always take the same amount of water. So once you find your optimal clone, you're going to find your water intake, and whatever milliliters it is, I'm going to show you guys the math here in a second, but you're going to insert that into the off timer. And then for your on timer, what you're going to do is you're going to set your box here to be 4,500 milliliters. You're going to plant your plants, and then you're going to turn on your water. And then as soon as you turn on your water, you're going to start a timer. Now, as soon as this box goes from 4,500 up to 7,000, you're going to stop your timer, and that's going to be your on time. And the reason I can't help you with your on time is because the position of your sprinklers makes a difference. If you're a little too left or a little too right, you're going to get a little bit more or a little less water into all of these sprinklers. So determining on time is very difficult. So the easiest way to do that is just time how long it takes to do that. And then you're going to convert that time into seconds, and then those seconds are going to be put into the timer. So, while the system is in the off mode, red line is always on. So our timer system here is always on, and then our light system in our heaters, which is this white line, is always on, and then our 2 fluid switch and pumps over there are also always on. So these 3 systems here are always on when the system is activated and everything is running. Now, when the off timer is on, the off timer is blocking the blocker here, preventing us from turning on the timer using this system. But as soon as this timer turns off, it's going to stop sending power into this blocker, unblocking it, allowing the power to pass through, activating this timer. And then as soon as this timer gets activated, it's going to block this blocker from up here, preventing the power going into this timer, preventing us from turning this timer on. But as soon as that one loses power, it's going to unblock this blocker, allowing us to trigger this timer, which then blocks this blocker, preventing us from turning on this timer. And then it just sits there and goes back and forth, between off and on, to keep your plants at the optimal level. So when this timer is triggered, it's sending power into our toggle, and as long as those toggles are continuously receiving power, the water purifier will stay on. But as soon as this turns off, this will no longer have power, so the toggles will no longer have power, and it'll toggle the switch, the fluid pumps off. It's then going to continue, and again, it's going to block this blocker with the one remaining power that we have. But then the extra 16 power is going to be what's running all of our pumps here. So this pump, and our purifier. So all of this equipment is only on when our sprinklers are running. And the reason I have that set up is because, for one, we're always getting excess water into our water barrel, so we don't need extra time while the sprinklers are off to fill these things. And not only that, but everything's loud. So as you can see, between the turrets and all of these pumps and the sprinklers and everything else, it can be kind of loud. So when we get a chance to, during the off section, I like to be able to hear and not have everything running. So that's what this system is set up and designed for. Yeah, so that's basically the main breakdown of how this system works. So I guess we'll go over some configuration values here in just a second. But yeah, so we'll go over this one more time. So we're going from the pumps into the purifier, from the purifier into a combiner, into the water barrel, from the water barrel into the splitter, and then out into our two pumps, and then back into the barrel, so we're always gaining excess water. When our timer is on, everything is on and running, and we're filling up our 2,500 excess milliliters, getting us up to 7,000. And then when we're at our 7,000, this timer will turn on, and it'll drain back to our 4,500, reactivating this timer, so on and so forth, all the way around. Starting on this bottom row, we're going to configure this branch to be 23, because we need the 16 power in order to run all of our pumps. We need 3 power in order to run our toggles, and then we need 1 excess power in order to block the blocker. The next one is we're going to configure this one to be 7. These need 2 each, so we need 2 power going into this blocker, we need 2 power going into this timer, and we need 2 power going into this blocker, plus power for the splitters, so we need 7 power going into that. For our lights and heaters, we currently have 6 heaters hooked up. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 power for our heaters. And then we have 4 lights, so 18, 20, 22, 24. And then because, again, the last light on our string only needs 1 power, so this needs 25 power. And then our excess 3 power that we're getting into the system is going to be sent out into our splitter here, and that's what's going to be currently always powering our pumps. This top electrical branch here is going to be 3. Again, this is what's powering our toggle. And then this one's going to be 16 because it's powering our 2 pumps and our purifier, which are 5 each, and then the electrical branch. So those are the configuration values for that. And then the configuration value for over here is 36. So we have 36 extra power that we can use to play with for our turrets, or whatever we want. And then all of that extra power is being sent over here. That, what is it? 64 power. Yeah, so 64 power to run everything. For your on timer, I'm going to put the math here on screen for you right now. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to start our timer when our water system turns on. And then we're going to turn off our timer when it reaches 7,000. And then we're going to convert that into seconds. So we're going to convert our hours into minutes. And then we're going to add our minutes together. And then we're going to multiply that by 60 to get our seconds. And then we're going to add our seconds together. And then that's going to be our on timer amount. Fairly straightforward and simple. So there's the math for that. Now for the off timer, I'm going to be placing, I have 4 different examples for you for 4 milliliters, 5 milliliters, 6 milliliters, and 7 milliliters. Currently 7 milliliters is the only one that's actually draining at the proper amount. 4s are draining at 5s, 5s are draining at 6s, and 6s are draining between 6 and 7. So here's the times for you now. And if you're doing mixed plants, so if you're doing 4 and 5, I would set your on timer and your off time, or I would set your off timer to be whatever the lower amount is. I'm pretty sure it's the lower amount that you want. And then you can always, because what you'll do is you're going to end up putting excess water into the system. And excess water is easier to drain than adding extra water into it. It happens a lot faster. So if you're finding that your things fill up a little too fast, then you can always just reset the system. And then once you reset the system, your off timer will automatically start. And then you can just look at your planter system as soon as it drops down to the 4,500. You can reactivate your system and start it over again. But again, optimally, you want to have all of your water intake to be the exact same for all of your plants all the way around, so that way everything is all draining and gaining at the exact same time. So, yeah, this has been Hydra's Hydroponics. You can use this system on any ocean shore, and it's going to help you guys out a lot. You can grow your berries, you can grow whatever you want. But I would recommend, doing your weed, because that way you can get your cloth. Especially early wipe, you do all your weed, get your cloth, get all your scrap, and then once you're done selling all of your cloth for scrap, you can switch over to berries and start making all of your teas, and then just change a couple of values around on there. So, but yeah, this has been Hydra's Hydroponics. I think it's the 5th episode of my professional power copy and paste. I hope this guys helped you guys out a lot. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Let me know that it's helping you guys out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.